Hello again, everyone. Welcome to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. As always, thank you for joining us on this show. The workplace, the workforce trends that are shaping the world around us, that's our sweet spot. That's what we try to get into. And today's show, we'll talk about a phenomenon that I see, it seems like it's on television on a regular basis, advertisements for low T. You're, of course, not trying to buy low T. You're trying to rid yourself of low T. Well, what is it? How do you get it? How do you get rid of it? What does the replacement therapy look like? And if I'm standing on the side of the road and I'm watching a parade of people go past, can I point at the people who have low T and say, oh, that's the person that needs it? I don't know. That's the focus of the show today. When we come back from break, Dr. Matt Barber is going to be talking about his new business that's open here in Mobile, Alabama, where our show is recorded, called Gameday Men's Health. He's going to get us some insight into this phenomenon of low T and the different problems it can cause, as well as the solutions that they provide to go about it. He may describe these symptoms, and it might be pointing straight at me. You may recognize yourself in some of this too. As we record this, the economy, it's a business-oriented show, the economy seems to be showing signs of this soft landing. And you may, if you're a regular fan of the show, remember a conversation with economist Peter Ricciuti a while back. Peter was talking about the levers that the Fed was pulling in order to achieve a soft landing in the economy. And according to the stuff that I'm reading in the headlines, it looks like the guys and ladies that run the Fed have pulled the right levers. And crazily, this economy has landed softly. At the same time, as we're recording this in October, there's this feeling of, are we in a recession or are we not? And there are those that I could talk to that would say undoubtedly that we are in a recession. Though the data doesn't reflect it, we are in a recession just based on the way that we feel. There are others that say, no, we are not in a recession. We're doing great. And you can look at the stock market right now, and the stock market would clearly tell you that we are not in a recession. We've seen multiple S&P 500 record finishes over the past little while, and no, we're not. So it's an interesting conversation that we're having in this nation right now, particularly as we're moving into election season. Again, it's October as we're recording the show, and both sides of the aisle are trying to proclaim that we are or are not, depending on their aims for the Oval Office. Anyway, it's an interesting conversation. I can tell you this, from my point of view in the businesses that I have, we are not seeing the dollars flow as freely as they have in the past. Earning business is getting harder, and it could be that I need to shake up my marketing or whatever it may be, or it could be that there are people that are just feeling like there's not enough money out there. One of the associations that I work with is the Marine Leadership Alliance. They're a group of boat manufacturers, pleasure fishing, sporting boat manufacturers. And one of the things that they've told me is that they're seeing a very big decline in sales right now and a huge inventory that's not turning very much, whether it be pontoon boats, center consoles, etc., usually indicating that the economy is struggling. So I don't know. Are we in a recession or are we not? It's a part of every article that I read in any of the major national news publications to try to figure out what they're saying. And it seems that no one exactly knows. The stock market would say no, but the attitudes of the people out there seem to feel more yes. So how's that for a clear definition of what's going on? In other words, I can't even begin to tell you. Speaking of things that are hard to understand, we'll come back after this break with Dr. Matt Barber. He's easy to understand. However, the measurement and the significance of low T is a little bit more difficult to understand. We're going to get into the weeds with him on that when we come back from break. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. We'll be right back.
This is Seth Cherniak, Vice President of Branch Development for the Jeffrey Matthews Financial Group. If you're an experienced financial advisor wanting the freedom of independence but aren't sure making that jump is right for you, we should talk. Jeffrey Matthews has developed a successful program for advisors who don't want to be 1099 contractors and don't want to pay for their own overhead. We're looking for advisors who want the freedom to run their business the way they see fit with the support that comes with a W-2 firm. If you're interested in joining one of our branches, or if you want to open your own branch as a full-time employee, let's chat. Our compensation plan is one of the most competitive among all W-2 firms, big or small. Reach out to us today at jeffreymatthews.com, connect with me, Seth Cherniak, on LinkedIn, or click the link in the podcast.
Jeffrey Matthews Financial Group, member FINRA, SIPC. We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston in the studio. Sitting across from me is Dr. Matt Barber. He's been on the show before. He's an orthopedist and always looking for new things. Seems to continue to love to grow and to study and to research and jump into new stuff. He is here today, though, representing Gameday Men's Health. And Matt, I'm going to ask you first, I'm going to welcome you back to What's Working.
Thank you.
And then ask you to tell me a little bit about Gameday Men's Health. I've looked through the website. Seems like you've got a lot going on there. Go ahead.
Well, Gameday is the intersection of a lot of things, from my personal health to things I was considering with my patients in the orthopedic surgical practice with regard to how they heal and what goes on with them after I do surgery on them. And a lot of conversations, quite frankly, with friends, colleagues, and seeing a lot of issues around this area that were going on and thinking about how to respond to those. And then ultimately got involved with Gameday and saw what they were doing and wanted to be a part of it.
Tell me now this is an interesting intersection that I hadn't anticipated, in that your patient's recovery could have been impacted by the services that you provide through Gameday. Is that accurate?
That's right. And so this was one of the things that involved me personally and my family. When I do surgery on someone, I'm giving them an hour or two or whatever's involved in that procedure. But it's something that they're going to heal from for months. There's the mechanics of what I do, the carpentry of it in the surgery, but there's the biology of them and how they recover and how they heal. And quite honestly, from my wife having a rotator cuff surgery a couple years ago, started doing a little more research on peptides and some injectable peptides and other compounds and roles that they could potentially play in healing. And we did those, and she did amazing.
Tell me what a peptide is. I know, I recognize the word, but pretend like I don't know what it is. Actually, you don't have to pretend.
Well, a peptide is just a chain of amino acids. It's basically several amino acids that are linked together in a molecule, shorter than a full protein, but a chain of these amino acids. And a lot of different things are peptides. Insulin is a peptide. It's just a molecule that usually in the body is some type of signaling molecule. So it's something that's directing something to grow, to do something else, to grow, to respond, to behave in a certain way. And growth, certain hormones like growth hormone is a peptide. You'll have multiple of these in your body, and some are synthetic.
So your wife received some of these peptides after her, what was it, a shoulder surgery?
Correct.
And her healing was much quicker, easier?
That's anecdotal. For
me
to talk about one patient is not science.
Right.
I have an amazing partner, Dr. Chris Patton, who did her surgery and did a fabulous job. And I will say, though, that by 3 months, she was raising her arm overhead, moving it completely naturally. Strength was back. And at 4 months, she said, I don't think about it.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
So rotator cuff surgery is notoriously difficult healing.
So this is exactly the case. And I'm not a shoulder surgeon, but I talk to patients.
Sure. My wife went through it.
Right. And if you talk to most anybody, they'll tell you a year, 2 years. I still had pain. It still hurts when I reach overhead. And so obviously I was super happy for her and super proud of the outcome, but it was just great to see. So, is taking one patient's experience and extrapolating it to everybody always true? No, but I firmly believe that this plays a large part, and I've taken some of these myself after a quadricep tendon tear a couple of years ago as well, and so just had a lot of belief from personal experience in this, and how do we get this to patients?
And you've joined in with Gameday Men's Health. Your wife perhaps gave you some indication that there's an opportunity out there, but this Gameday, as the title says, or the business is called, is Men's Health. Why do men need this more than women? Why are we, it's 50% of the population, which is still quite a few people. Why is this targeted more towards men than peptides? It seems like could be a target for everybody. It's got to be more than that.
Absolutely. So the cornerstone, I would say, of Gameday is testosterone replacement therapy for men. And so that part is obviously directed toward men. The other part of this is that a lot of times guys just won't go to the doctor.
Yeah.
In most families, the woman is the healthcare decision maker, and guys are, not every guy, but often guys are busy and they're working and they're doing whatever they do, and they're, from a health standpoint, sort of running around with the check engine light on.
Yeah, that's a great metaphor. It's perfect.
They just won't go get checked. And so these are services, particularly with testosterone replacement, that are geared toward guys. And we do it in an environment that is very non-threatening, sort of a comfy man cave environment where somebody can come in and sit down in our lobby in a comfy chair and watch ESPN and then come talk to our provider. And we do testing on site, so guys can come in for a free consultation, have their blood drawn, and get a free testosterone test. And they will know their level before they leave the office.
Ads for low testosterone are all over the television, it seems like. Is it suggesting the frequency with which I see these ads that it's a crisis? Is it a crisis?
Maybe. So this data gets parsed out a lot of different ways, but there's some suggestion that testosterone levels across the board may be up to 50% lower than they were even 25 years ago.
So we take a 50-year-old male, and 25 years ago, he had twice the testosterone. 50-year-old male 25 years ago had twice the testosterone than today's 50-year-old male does.
Fairly commonly. And it's not across the board, and there's a lot of speculation as to why that's happening, but it is very definitely a thing. We are testing patients in their 20s and 30s who have clinically verifiably low testosterone levels.
That's shocking, and we don't know why.
Well, there's a few things. So there are probably things in our environment. There are what are called environmental estrogens. There are, medications that become part of our water supply. So there are things around us that probably contribute to that. And
give me an example of an environmental estrogen.
Well, even just oral contraceptives that go into our water supply ultimately through being washed down the drain, and things that are not necessarily filtered out. You can have medications like that. You can have other molecules that essentially are able to act on an estrogen receptor once they're in the human body. And if there are enough of these, then you start to see some of those symptoms. The other, and this may be the larger part of it, is obesity. So for guys, the larger or the fatter you get, quite frankly, your testosterone is acted on by an enzyme in your fat cells called aromatase that converts it to estrogen. So you can see symptoms of high estrogen, but that also suppresses your testosterone production, and you get a very vicious cycle with that.
No kidding. This is fascinating. We're going to pick this up after break. I want to hear one of the symptoms or one of the identifiers we've already said. The larger the male, the more likely they are to have a low T situation. When we come back from break, we'll get more of this. This is Cam Marston. You're listening to What's Working. Sitting across from Dr. Matt Barber, his company, Gameday Men's Health. We'll be right back.
This is Bill Eastet. I perfected my baking recipe behind my live music stage at my little restaurant in Fairhope, Alabama. We have custom-made smokers and small batch bacon made just for you. So if you're looking for the best bacon in America that has been cured, smoked, and even serenaded by songwriters, you definitely need to try Billy's Small Batch Bacon. www.billysbacon.com.
The company is Gameday Men's Health. Dr. Matt Barber is here to talk about it and the things that may drive people to the organization to get the treatment. Prior to the break, we were talking about this incredible decline in testosterone in men over the past 25 years and what may be causing it. Matt, I think it was The Economist magazine put out an article not long ago about reduced sperm counts across the world. Is this similar to that?
Yes.
Yes. So I was taught as a child that if you even walk in a girl's shadow, she's going to get pregnant. And now we're talking about low sperm counts and everything like that. Keep going. What are the implications of this?
Well, there can be a lot of different drivers for how this starts for people, and everybody's medical history is individual. Medications that they've been on, trauma, it can be a lot of different things that may drive this. But, very typically we're dealing with middle-aged guys, and now, quite frankly, younger than middle-aged guys who start to show symptoms. I think classically people think of it as loss of muscle mass or loss of libido or some of these very identifiably male things. And we do see that, guys that'll tell you, I've been getting after it in the gym, and I finally, this is the first time in my life I've really pulled my diet together, and I can't make any progress. Like, just nothing's happening. Something's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely see those patients, but much more commonly, I think it's a middle-aged guy that's just, I'm tired all the time. Something's wrong. I was not like this 3 years ago. Like, I have to have 3 cups of coffee to get through my afternoon at work, and then I come home and I just crash. Like, I'm gone. And that, I think, is the most common, but shows up a lot of times with fatigue, brain fog, trouble sleeping, a lot of sort of downstream consequences from that low testosterone level.
So if you put someone on a low testosterone treatment, giving them the testosterone, will you see a change in their physique when they come back to revisit you, let's say 6 months down the road, or is it mostly something they're feeling?
What they feel is probably the biggest thing. If they don't do anything different in terms of activity,
right,
they likely will have some changes in their body composition. They probably will gain a little bit of muscle mass, and possibly, if they're not taking in any more food, they may burn more calories because of that increased muscle mass. They may get a little bit leaner. But if they do that and combine it with some reasonable exercise, then you absolutely will see changes in them visibly and physically. And I think the energy level, the psychological boost, sort of the mental clarity, the better sleep, that's the part that people just say, yeah, this has been a game changer for me.
So every human body has both, male and female, has both testosterone and estrogen in it, correct?
Correct.
In the male, there's more testosterone than estrogen, correct?
Correct.
When you begin to lose testosterone, does it mean it's replaced by estrogen, or does your percent of estrogen increase?
That's a great point, and it can. And when we do testosterone replacement for someone, that's one of the factors that we look at is the ratio of testosterone to estrogen. And that part is not a perfect science. Everybody feels a little bit different at different levels, but too high of estrogen can cause undesired symptoms for guys. Similarly, too low. If you medically do things to reduce the estrogen, they can have a lot of symptoms from that as well.
So you need both.
You need both.
You need both. And
really what we're shooting for with this is bioidentical hormone replacement, we often say, is that we're trying to put you back where you should have been. I mean, somebody who's taking testosterone is not taking something unnatural. I mean, you have this molecule circulating through your blood right now.
Right.
We're trying to get the levels back to where they should be.
So a manufactured testosterone is the same as a naturally occurring testosterone.
Pharmacologically, that's got to be prepared certain ways to deliver it into your body. But yes, testosterone is testosterone.
How do if I were to be a patient of yours, how do I take it? Is it an injection? Is it a pill?
Overwhelmingly, the most common is injection. Their oral preparations in the past have been very unreliable in terms of getting to an even level, and they tend to be very short acting, so it's hard to regulate levels. There is a newer oral formulation that seems to be better. It's testosterone undecanate is the molecule, so it's a longer ester that's attached to the testosterone molecule. And I think a lot of us are kind of watching that. Most people do injectable. There are implantable pellets that can be placed every about 3 to 4 months as well. I don't love those for a couple of reasons. It's real good at getting a steady level, but it's also very hard to adjust. You've kind of set that up for several months, but some people do that and absolutely love it. And people that travel a lot and don't want to have to carry medication with them, it's a sweet spot for them.
Is it an injection that I take home with me, or must I come to you every time to get it?
Either way. So we have patients that come in once a week and get an injection, and patients can absolutely get this set up to go to their home and they can self-administer. Is
testosterone something that if I were to change my diet, my activity, anything that I can regulate myself? If I were to self-identify low T, I'm going to say, you know what? I need to eat more navel oranges. Is there anything like that would help me create my own testosterone?
You can definitely do things to enhance your natural testosterone, reduce stress, better sleep, zinc and certain other minerals that you may be deficient in, things that you want to optimize. The issue is that those on a percentage basis don't tend to move the needle really far in most cases. Now, some guys it may get them where they want to be, but there are actually a couple of medications as well that can be used to elevate your testosterone level without giving supplemental testosterone, and we do some of those as well.
Yeah. So a patient comes through your door. He says he's what you've described, perhaps. He's overweight. He's tired all the time. He can't get enough coffee in his system. Perhaps a reduced libido. What is step one? You bring him in the back and is it blood?
Step one is we do a blood draw. That's the Gameday way, is the belief underlying all this that every guy deserves to know what their testosterone level is.
Yeah.
So our initial consultations and our initial testosterone test is totally free.
Oh, is it really free? That's
Absolutely.
not cheap.
So we have them in and they get the opportunity to do that. And then from there, once we have that initial level, we do that in-house. So you find out that result during your visit, and they talk with myself or our other provider about what their options are, where they're at, and what they might want to do to try to improve that.
How is testosterone measured? Give me a sense of a measurement. You've got 50 cc's. What is a typical thing?
On most scales, I believe it's in nanograms per deciliter, and that range goes from, depending on the lab, 0 to 12 or 1,500, something like that.
12 to 1,500.
So under 300 is the super conservative medical cutoff of where you have low T. Now, lots of guys have testosterone that's higher than that, and they have symptoms, and they absolutely deserve to be treated. But they've been told that they're not candidates, and we want to talk to those guys especially.
Dr. Matt Barber's with me. His company, Gameday Men's Health, here in Mobile. Locations across the country. We'll come back after this break. You're listening to What's Working.
This is Seth Cherniak, Vice President of Branch Development for the Jeffrey Matthews Financial Group. If you're an experienced financial advisor wanting the freedom of independence, but aren't sure making that jump is right for you, we should talk. Jeffrey Matthews has developed a successful program for advisors who don't want to be 1099 contractors and don't want to pay for their own overhead. We're looking for advisors who want the freedom to run their business the way they see fit, with the support that comes with a W-2 firm. If you're interested in joining one of our branches, or if you want to open your own branch as a full-time employee, let's chat. Our compensation plan is one of the most competitive among all W-2 firms, big or small. Reach out to us today at jeffreymatthews.com, connect with me, Seth Cherniak, on LinkedIn, or click the link in the podcast.
Jeffrey Matthews Financial Group, member FINRA, SIPC. Dr. Matt Barber and his wife Tara run Gameday Men's Health here in Mobile as well as in locations across the country. The primary focus of Gameday, if I understand Dr. Barber, is low T, which shockingly I've learned since sitting down with you is I'm going to use the term chronic problem in men across the country. Tired, overweight, just can't get the oomph together like you once had it. Maybe you are a candidate for low T. You also do peptides, medical weight loss. Tell me more about, there's obviously a need here for this. The amount of testosterone you've mentioned already in people that you see is half what it used to be 25 years ago. Where's this going? What's the future? I mean, I've got 2 young boys. Should I just be grateful they have any testosterone at all?
Yeah, we're trying to deal with what's in front of us right now. I don't know that I've thought it that far along the line, but certainly it may be a situation where guys do want to get tested a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
There's some literature and some indication that the decline that may be age-related and may be natural or maybe not natural, you can have a quote-unquote normal level and still have symptoms, because it's thought in some circles that when that level drops about 30% from its top end, that you may really start to have symptoms. So let's just take another prototypical middle-aged guy, that he may come in and get tested and have a testosterone level of 600, which is considered normal. Now, there's some nuance to that. The free testosterone needs to be checked. There's some other markers that have to be looked at. But if somebody just looks at that number on the face and doesn't consider the patient, they may say, hey, that's normal. What we don't know is that 3 years earlier, that guy may have been running around at a testosterone of 950.
Yeah.
And he felt great. And as it dropped off and it got far enough down, he just started having symptoms, and you can replace it and get him back up to a level where he probably lived for a long time and he'll feel great.
Yeah. Is this something you're on for the rest of your life, or is it something that's fixable?
It can be. Patients that decide to discontinue that, there are some things that you do to try to restart the body's natural production of that, or to maintain it even while you are on supplemental testosterone. And that's something that, each individual's kind of got to have a conversation with their provider about.
Yeah. Is it covered by insurance?
So we don't take insurance, and that for us is the beauty of what we do. We are not sort of bound by any arbitrary levels of where we can start treatment and where we can't. We don't call United Healthcare and ask their opinion about it. We talk to the patient, we tell them where they're at and tell them what they may want to consider doing and what their options are, and we make a decision together.
Is it something where I receive the injection from you in the office one day and I wake up the next day feeling it, or does it take a period of time? I know some medications, and good Lord knows I know you know this, you got to take it for a month before you can begin to get the benefit of the medication.
You may feel something depending on what your level was at, but much longer term.
Oh, really?
Hormones move things slowly. So really seeing the benefit of that and getting that regulated a couple, 3 months.
No kidding.
For sure.
Yeah. So it's a weekly injection for a 3-month notice.
Yeah, there's a few different ways to administer that, and you can inject it once or twice weekly. There are people that talk about microdosing it daily. Not something I'm a huge proponent of necessarily, but generally once or twice a week is the most common. Do
you find that most people that come in and are searching for this also become a customer of, let's say, your peptides or the weight loss? Do they tend to say, you know what, as long as I'm here, kind of like the checkout line at the grocery store, as long as I'm here, I'm going to get some breath mints?
Yeah, and it's not that you're adding on things necessarily. It's that they came in with certain problems.
Yeah.
And those were on their mind, and what have you got to help me fix that?
Yeah.
And sometimes testosterone level may not be amazing, but not too bad. And so maybe they just want to work on weight loss first, and then we reassess and see where they're at. Sometimes, they've finally decided they needed to get checked, or someone in their life has decided it was time for them to get checked.
That's right.
And so they look at it as a chance to make a lifestyle change.
Yeah.
And you've got, with testosterone and with some of the more modern weight loss drugs, you quite frankly have some levers people can pull that actually work. These are things that can be powerful and can work very well for people. And so when they do that, they start to create wins for themselves. They're like, you know what? I feel better.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got enough energy. I could go work out now.
Right.
And so that becomes a jumping off place to make changes. And then when they say, oh, I'm gaining a little bit of muscle here, I can see something I couldn't see before.
Right.
I'm losing fat. Then they're like, okay, what now? How do I get better from here?
As a friend of mine said, there is no drug more powerful than fitting into your clothes comfortably. And you'll do nearly anything to continue to do that. You feel the success of your work, and it makes you want to continue to do it. This hypothetical patient has suddenly seen, I'm gaining muscle mass, I like this feeling. It's not as hard as I thought, and I wanted more.
Yes. And even probably more so than that is I just feel good. I don't have this brain fog.
Yeah.
I'm not tired all the time. I have just more drive or ambition. Like I'm just more engaged.
Is your typical customer, client, patient, an active person who wants to feel the energy like they once felt it, or a sedentary person that wants to feel some energy at all?
Yes.
It's a both.
No, they're all over the board. I mean, these can be older guys that are in their 60s and 70s, and the age-related testosterone decline has just finally gotten to them, and they want to feel something. Lots right now of the middle-aged guys that I am tired, and maybe I've even been diagnosed as being depressed, or I have all these things, and something's just not right. And shockingly, more so even than I ever expected to see guys in their 20s with super low levels. And I don't know if that's environmental stuff. I mean, some of them, quite frankly, partied too hard with a lot of other things in their youth. And, over the years, it just took a toll on their body, and now they're not producing enough testosterone. But it's guys at all stages of life.
It's shocking to me that it's so many people, that the amount of loss is as great as it has. I had no idea that you and I would get into that.
I did not either going into this. And so part of being part of Gameday is that this is, if it's not the largest yet, it's one of the largest networks of these type of clinics in the country. They just passed 200 locations that are open very recently. And I'm networked with these clinicians from all over the country, and we talk, and people tell me, I saw this patient, they were this old, and this was their, and like just story after story, and it's almost hard to believe, but it's becoming an epidemic.
Normally, Matt, we go into the segment 5 of the show, and it's just me. Stick around with me for one more, if you will, one more segment. A couple more questions.
We got you.
You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. Dr. Matt Barber, his company's Gameday Men's Health. We'll be back right after this.
I'm Joey Mason. For 4 years, my goal has been to produce the best farm-to-table products I'd ever eaten. I've done just that at our on-site USDA facility in Gameday, Alabama, allowing us to ship directly to your door. This is true farm-to-table. Visit us at masonhillsfarm.com to see all that we have to offer.
First time ever, What's Working is back in segment 5 with the guest still across from me, Dr. Matt Barber. Matt, we're talking about Gameday Men's Health, we're talking about low T. Is there ever a reason for a female to want to come to you is she in your market at all?
We don't advertise that part a lot. We do offer weight loss and peptide treatments for women and some of our injectable vitamin therapies.
Yeah, but she's not your target, because if both men and women have testosterone in it, I guess there's she does not have a need for it like the men do.
She actually can. Hormone replacement therapy for women is a little different, and we kind of leave that to the experts. But the weight loss part and the peptides and some of those things, Gameday, as they expanded nationally, guys were doing great and losing weight and looking and feeling better. And it was like, okay, what are we going to do for my wife or my girlfriend or whatever? And so they were bringing in their significant others. And so we do offer weight loss services and peptides for women.
For women, yeah, the peptides. I'm very curious about that. Real quick, again, running out of time on the show. How do I know if I need peptides?
You just have to come in and talk with our provider.
So it's not if I'm coming out of surgery, I want to come find you to help the healing process.
If you know you have surgery coming up, particularly something elective, joint replacement, lumbar fusion, large abdominal surgery, that's a very substantial open surgery, there are some peptides and some medications that can be used to potentially enhance the healing process.
Yeah. So your website is full of content about the things you offer, with the low T being the primary one. You also medical weight loss, as you said, peptides, erectile dysfunction, another thing that I see advertised a lot, and it's part of what y'all's offering is as well.
We do, obviously, a lot of medications in that space. We actually offer a few non-surgical procedure-based treatments for that, to really kind of help bridge a gap, if you will, because for a lot of guys that have not responded well to ED medications, their only other option is a urologic surgery with an implant. And so we've got some things short of that can be very helpful.
How do they find you, Matt?
They can give us a call at 251-447-2529, or look us up on the web, Gameday Men's Health, obviously the Mobile, Alabama location. We're also on Facebook and Instagram.
Excellent. Gameday Men's Health, folks. I would suspect that many of you listening can relate to at least some of this. And I didn't realize it was as big of a problem as it was. So I appreciate Dr. Barber. Matt, we're going to wrap it up here. Thanks, folks. You're listening to What's Working. Please find us on social media. You can find me at Cam Marston. You'll often enter the numeral 1 after my name, and you can find information on the show. Hope you will do so. If you want a free chapter of my book, go to cammarston.com. Enter your name into the email thing that's on that homepage, and when you hit send, you will get a free chapter of the book. Thanks very much. We'll have another show next week. You're listening to What's Working. As you likely know, this show originates as a radio show broadcast across the state of Alabama, and it continues to grow in both radio listeners and market. After it's formatted for radio, we then turn it into this podcast. Please share it with those you think would find it interesting, and subscribe to the podcast on my YouTube page, where you can leave messages and your thoughts and your comments, and I'll certainly get back in touch. Finally, if you're a fan of the show, please offer a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can find my book called What Works on Amazon.com. In it, I highlight the top 10 ideas from the first 200 episodes of the show. Mind you, they're not the top 10 best episodes, they're the top 10 best ideas. Many times the same ideas are brought up again and again by different guests, and we dig into those ideas in such a way that they'll be easily applicable for your business. Simply go to Amazon and enter my name, and you'll find What Works as well as my other books. Chapter titles include How to Find a Niche, Innovation, Building Teams, and so forth. To learn more about the workshops and seminars I offer, go to cammarston.com. There you can view clips of my work, view workshop titles, view my reviews, case studies, customer lists. It's all there. If you'd like a free copy of one of the chapters of my book, enter your email address at the bottom of the homepage at cammarston.com. And from that site, you can email me directly. I always love to hear from you. You'll also find me on social media. Find Cam Marston on all the social media platforms, and you may need to enter the numeral 1. There's one other Cam Marston out there, and that numeral 1 distinguishes me from him from time to time. So if you're unsure if it's me or not, enter that numeral 1 after my name, and it should do the trick. On a more personal and less professional side, I record weekly commentaries that air across Alabama on Alabama Public Radio twice each day on Fridays, called Keeping It Real. They've won statewide and national awards. They're simple observations on the world as it goes on around me, and they're only a few minutes long. They're a passion. You can find them on the same podcast app you're using to listen to this. Finally, if you're interested in advertising on this podcast or the radio show, reach out. I've worked hard to cultivate a specific listener, and I can tell you all about them, and I have many different options for helping you reach them. Thanks again for listening. We'll have another episode available soon.